Dorian was going to go straight big line ball, and then it ends up stay at my place and go power. And didn't even hit Orlando. Okay. Yeah. Jumping action. There are others like us. Or he gets at the Folly Beach, one of the two. I like your way. Then I get the phone call from my other one. Where are you? All right. Beer and
You could have left some of that beer here.
yeah.
I ran out.
The worst part are these having calls. I went 48 hours of hurricane coverage, no call. Let me tell you. Yeah, it was dope. Kevin and I got a 2-bedroom B&B.
Everybody, she had the best time. Everybody gets every time they had a rain. I got all these videos. I'm out in the field like getting rained on. And I'm like, Dixie's so much fun. And they're like running around the bus with her. And I'm like, oh, she didn't want to leave afterwards. She was like, everybody gave her. I gotta get better. She had the best time. She got home. She didn't know. I was tired.
Loving everybody so much.
It's hard.
Being loved. Being loved.
I got home after that first 14 hours. You're bad. She like looked at it. I'm like, I got it. 40 times.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's press conference. The Bulldogs, coming off a tough 35-28 loss at Elon, will travel to play Georgia Tech this Saturday at 12:30. Here to talk about the Bulldogs, head coach Brent Thompson.
All right, thank you, John. First of all, it's good to be back at home. It's good to kind of get your bearings about you here and make sure that everything was good on campus, and everything looks like it survived pretty well here. And being gone for about 5 or 6 days or so, it was a little bit challenging being on the road last week. But as far as our operations were concerned, we had known the operations. We did a great job of logistically handling everything. Andy Clausen handled all of it, and Kevin Yeager handled all the equipment. So I just wanted to thank those two guys personally for all that they did for us on the road and giving us a chance to play the game and giving us the chance to be able to compete one more day out there on a Saturday when you've got only 12 opportunities. I know that was huge for our seniors. Unfortunately, it didn't go the way that we wanted it to go. It went kind of very similar to the Towson game, and that was we had our chances, we had our moments, we made some plays, but when you turn on the film, you see some glaring things that were really different. And that was our fundamentals broke down, and our fundamentals broke down in a lot of different ways. Blocking and tackling were just as clear as day out there. We missed things that we were making the week before. We were able to do a couple of things to keep us in the ball game as far as the special teams were concerned. Turner West, our special teams coach, did a great job of being able to scheme them up and get 2 block kicks that kept us into the game. And then Raleigh Webb had a good 30-something yard catch to be able to score the last touchdown for us to be able to make it tied. And unfortunately, we couldn't hold on to the tie there. And we had one more opportunity. We got a little bit past the 50-yard line, and that was about it for us. And then we kind of sputtered out a little bit. But all in all, it was we could have had a much better day. It was I don't think that we played our best game there. I thought we played a lot better against Towson. I thought that we could have been able to put a couple more points on the board. Our first half was slow on offense. We did enough on defense to be able to just stay in the ball game for us. The second half, we finally got it going a little bit on offense, and that was kind of the way that it went. Is we figured them out. We figured out what it was like to play football again, and I think we were able to move the football and do some things that were able to at least give us a chance to win on offensive side of the football second half. I thought the defense got wore out in the second half based upon the first half of the offense is kicking the ball away all 3 and out about 4 or 5 times in the first half. So it's about the way the day went. We've got a good week of practice ahead of us for this game. It'll be good to be back at home, at least practicing, using our own facilities for meetings and in practice. And we're going to go see what we can do against Georgia Tech. It's a team that had a good win against South Florida. Just got done watching the game. They were able to move the football enough on offense to be able to figure out an identity, to be able to score some points. South Florida had an opportunity at the end of the game or in the fourth quarter to be able to go up 17-14 and fumble the ball on the 1-yard line there. So there was an interesting game of back and forth. I thought both teams had their opportunities to win the game. We've got to be able to play a sound, fundamental football game anytime that we take the field to be able to give us a chance, especially this week against a FBS opponent. Questions?
Coach, you obviously already kind of touched on it, but to have 2 games in a row kind of like that where, maybe a little bit of a slow start, everything doesn't go how you plan, but your guys keep you in it and give you a chance at the end to win it. I guess first, what does that say about, what do you see from this team? What does that say about them, and how do you get over that hump in the coming games?
We'll eventually get over that hump. There's no doubt about it, just by the character of this ball club. And I've always said that from the start is these guys don't give up. They don't have the give up in them. But the one thing that we cannot do is forget about all the other stuff is we've got the fight, but we still got to play with fundamentals and we got to play with grit. And when we don't, it shows, and it's very apparent out there. And that's really what I addressed the team about yesterday was just, hey, when we take the field, there's got to be a certain amount of edge to us that we lacked on Saturday. I think we'll get that, and when we do get that, we will win some games.
Coach, Georgia Tech famously now getting off of their option-based offense attack, but it's a team, a group that's familiar with how you're going to play on offense. What is the challenge in that? Now, how are you prepared to go against them when at first when you scheduled this matchup, they were an option-based team. Now, looking at a new-look offense, 2 games of footage, how is that all come into play? Yeah,
the advantage flipped a little bit is when you schedule them and they're a triple option team, your defense has a little bit more of the advantage. Now you've got to be able to figure out on offense what are they going to do defensively to to stop you or to figure out what you want to what you're going to try to take away from us. And that's the challenge for us is we don't know. They were a 50 base team, they're a 4-down base team right now. You've got to plan for just about everything at this point. They the staff obviously played some triple option teams with Army and Navy, so they've got a good idea. They've got a good plan together. They've played them 3 in the past. I think they played them 3 times in the past 2 years. So this will be their 4th game. I think they'll have a pretty good plan to be able to execute. The kids know how to play it. It's a responsibility-oriented defense that they've got to play. So we're not going to really know until we get out there for the first couple of snaps. We've got to plan for a couple of different scenarios and be able to just execute our offense and worry about what we're doing.
Coach, you get the score in the first quarter in either of your first 2 games. How important is it to get a fast start against Georgia Tech?
Yeah, I said it after the game is we have not been able to take a lead, and that's been crucial for us. It's been very critical. I think the Towson game was the turnovers. That's really what got us. And then of course we took points on the board off the board in the on one of the first 2 or 3 drives there on the penalty. So that hurt us in that game. This past week we just weren't able to get out of our own way. We need to be able to get off to a faster start. We are not executing precisely. We're not executing well enough, and we need to be able to execute just good enough and hold on to the football and don't get penalties long enough to be able to figure out what they're doing to take the next step in our game plan.
Brent, I know that, like you said, figuring out what the defense is doing is a big key when you run the option. Are you pushing or trying to do anything to make that happen sooner, quicker in the game than maybe halftime? If you know what I'm saying?
Sure, at halftime you're able to get all your adjustments in. Is in between plays or in between quarters, you're just trying to figure out what are the quick adjustments that you can get in. And you're absolutely right, Jeff. Is you're able to get a couple of things done, but you got to sit there and you got to digest everything. You got to get all the information from up top to be able to make all your final conclusions as to what they're trying to do. And really, I thought in the first half of the Towson game, we had a pretty good plan and came out in the second half. And it took us at the third quarter to figure out what they were doing to get us to the fourth quarter. And this game was a little bit different. It took us the first and the second quarter to be able to figure out in order what to do in the third and the fourth quarter. So there's always that constant back and forth. They're always going to make adjustments there. You've got to, what we say, really just hunt and peck around a little bit to find out what the answers are and where you can get to.
Greg touched on it. Georgia Tech's going back from the option to a spread offense. They're only averaging about 14 points a game right now. Defensively, where can you see maybe some places to exploit that?
Well, the hard part is they're an offense that is finding their identity right now, and they're trying to do it with triple option personnel. Essentially, they've got a couple of good running quarterbacks, so they're going to use them in those situations. They've got Jordan Mason, who's a very good running back, as well. He used to play B-back for them, and right now they're just trying to figure out a way to move the football with maybe some undersized offensive linemen that were built to handle a different sort of an offense, and a quarterback that was probably recruited to run the triple option, trying to figure out a little bit about the passing game. So once again, it'll be interesting is you got an offense that's just trying to figure out an identity, and our defense is the same way. We're going to figure out how we're going to be able to stop the run, and that's always our goal, and then how we're going to be able to effectively be able to apply pressure to the quarterback, so that way the passing game and the secondary gets relieved a little bit.
Coach, you really don't have to look far, just a little bit up there towards Conway to see what can happen when an FCS team plays an FBS team despite the Power 5 ranking. I'm wondering if the guys saw anything of what Coastal did there in Lawrence, and if you can gain motivation from seeing recent success of other teams from the area going up against teams in Power 5 conferences.
Well, I'll say this is I don't know. I didn't watch any of that Kansas game. I've heard about it. Obviously, it was a great defensive ball game. I thought that they played, being that it was such a low-scoring affair. It's going to be a similar thing for any time that we've got a chance to be able to compete on the FBS level, and that's a low-scoring game. Our game against South Carolina a couple years ago was 22-23. I mean, those are really tight ball games right there. They're going to naturally be tight ball games. I've always liked the way that our kids have prepared and played against FBS opponents. So I don't ever think that that we don't have a chance against any of those guys. I always think that we've always got a pretty good chance. The only one that was very difficult was the Clemson one. I think they're pretty good that year.
Will you talk about the USC game from a couple years back?
Sure. That was a game that I was the offensive coordinator in the booth at the time, so I got a pretty good picture of that one. And we knew that we could hang in there long enough with them. We just didn't know if we were going to be able to ever at any point get a lead and hold on to a lead. And really that's essentially what we did. We had a couple of big plays, a couple of big drives, and then we had a huge field goal by our kicker, Goins at the time. He was phenomenal to be able to take the lead and eventually be able to finish off the drive. The one thing that we were able to do was we played keep away, we played ball control, and we were opportunistic when we needed to. Is we scored enough points to be able to, just enough get the lead and be able to take care of the lead.
Coach, what's kind of the mood in the locker room? What have you felt from the guys after 2 tough, close losses and being on the road this past couple weeks?
Yesterday was we got back yesterday. We got back to work yesterday. We returned on Saturday night. And I felt like we came ready to work. I explained my disappointment, and my disappointment didn't lie with them per se. It was just the way that we prepared. I don't know that we prepared, and that falls back to me, is when you're on the road like that, you cannot let distractions interfere. So your preparation's got to be spot on no matter where you are. And that was my part to them was, hey, no matter where we are, we've got to play the same exact way. We have no other chance. So I think that they responded. I think they had a good practice yesterday. We'll probably tell a little bit more Tuesday when we get out there again. But every time that these guys have been challenged, they've responded. I've got no worries with these guys. All right, thank you guys.